and every story can change the world. Together we are global speakers talk.
So I want to give this speech begin with a small introduction to make a reflection to you, because think if you're a leader and you're hearing this, maybe you will conclude what I'm going to say to you, because every leader will face a moment in their life where the titles don't protect you. There's no strategy. You don't feel the guidance, because we all go through those moments. But in my particular case, as JB in the introduction said, it went in a moment in my life 8 years ago where during a business trip I was kidnapped and I was held hostage during 5 years. So today we're going to talk about here of emotional intelligence. And for me, that became my cornerstone, because at that moment I lost my freedom, I lost my control, I lost everything. You have to picture this. I was a guy with a successful career, and in the midst of getting retired, and I flew to a business trip. In the middle of the business trip, in the middle of a presentation, I was kept captive and accused to be an American spy. So everything was changed to me. So the emotional intelligence for me is not a theory. It doesn't have to do with the leadership books. It didn't come from a corporate seminar. It really, I needed to use it to survive. So today I'm going to try to explain to you some methods, some techniques that we used that really help us to survive, because emotional intelligence in the purest form is really understanding your emotions, understanding your fear and manage your fears. It's calming your mind, navigating the uncertainty, and leading yourself under any unimaginable adversity. That's exactly what happened to me. So the emotional intelligence is not about being soft, it's about being self-governing. Because let me tell you something, during those years and in the beginning of my captivity, I lost the control of everything. But I didn't lose something that was myself, my self-governing. So the emotional intelligence is the ability to understand what you feel, what the other feel, and how they react to the chaos. And that moment for me was really a chaos. So when the world is squeezing, is where the emotional intelligence keeps you grounded. Because you can feel overwhelmed, you can feel burnout, you can feel with pressure. And maybe you're leading teams with fears and uncertainty. Today's world is crazy. So I want to mirror you these techniques that we use that you really can help you in your life. So I'm going to talk about 5 pillars that for me are very important. The first pillar is the self-awareness, knowing your inner world. In my captivity, I had nothing except thinking. Believe me, I had a lot of time to think. So self-awareness for me became really my survivor. I had to begin to ask me what I was feeling, why I was feeling that, what was really scaring me, what were my strengths, and how I can control it in a daily basis. So most leaders doesn't make that conversation, doesn't have that inner talk, because there is a truth. You cannot manage what you are refused to acknowledge. That's very important. So self-awareness. Second pillar, self-regulation. Master yourself before you lead others. You cannot lead others if you don't lead yourself. So there were moments in my captivity that fear wanted to take over my mind, and I decided to maintain the control. I decided to keep sane in body, soul, and spirit. So when hopelessness felt louder, I got grounded by my faith. When I was having anger, I began to try to ask for the question why this was happening to me. And when the despair was knocking, I was on praying on a daily basis. So self-regulation is very important, because you need to pause before speaking, you have to reflect before deciding, and you have to act with purpose not with panic. So any leader that's hearing this, you cannot regulate your emotions if you don't lead with stability. You need to be grounded and focused. The third pillar for me is the empathy. The empathy is the most underrated form of power. Believe me, empathy is a superpower. In my prison, having the ability to maintain that empathy for me was a survival tool, because even the guards, the people that had captive, they are people, they were human, they had their fears. I believe me, during years I had the opportunity to talk with these guys, and they were human having their own struggles. So empathy doesn't mean that you are going to agree with them, because I was not agreeing with the custodies, but I was trying to navigate with them. Empathy doesn't mean that you have to approve things, but you need to understand. Empathy means that you are putting in the shoes of the others and you're understanding where they're coming from. So if you're a leader, empathy allows you to first build trust. You can inspire loyalty with your employees because they feel that you are taking care of them, that you are understanding them. It allows to resolve conflict. It creates sense of belonging, very important, sense of belonging. The empathy is not a weakness. Empathy is influence. The fourth pillar for me is the social awareness. Somebody said, the first speaker said, the very important, read the room, lead the room. In the captivity, for me, reading the room was key. It made me survive, learning how to read the tone, the silence, the tensions, the energy, the intention. That kept me really, for me, was a survivor tool. So if you mirror that as a leader, having the ability when you are in a room, lead the room, read the room, and you can anticipate any conflict, you can navigate the cultural difference, you can navigate sense of resistance, you can communicate effectively, and you can inspire to the others. So that becomes a superpower. And that fifth pillar for me is relationships management. Leadership is about taking care of a humanity. I always mention being human being. For me, was a superpower that I learned there, that in a prison, it really saved my life, because it allows me to have trust, collaboration, respect, unity with all the people that were surrounded with me, accountability. So leadership is not a title. Leadership is that relationship. You cannot lead with people if you don't understand them. So for during those years, I learned that fear was my alarm, but hope was my anchor. Faith was my compass. You cannot lead others if you're collapsing inside. Even if you're going in a dark moment, you need to try to have a stability. Because resilience is not suffering less, it's finding meaning in the suffering. The pain becomes your purpose. So today's world is noisy, is divided, is unpredictable. People are exhausted. There's cultural fragilities. Organizations are overwhelmed. We don't need leaders who are perfect. We need leaders who really have emotional intelligence. Leaders who stay grounded under pressure. Leaders who inspire confidence. Leaders who bring calm in the chaos. Leaders who lead with humanity, courage, and clarity. There's no frontier in leadership. So, coming to the end, I'm going to reflect to you: lead with heart, lead with strength, and lead with emotional mastery. I stand here. I was a former CEO. I was a man that lost everything. I was a man who survived those 5 years of captivity. I was a man that has had to rebuild his life and find his purpose. And here's a message for you: emotional intelligence is not an option, it's essential. It's your strength, it's your anchor, it's your advantage. It will become your legacy. Lead with awareness, lead with discipline, lead with empathy, lead with courage, lead with your heart. Because leaders who master emotional intelligence don't survive, they transform the world. So if you want to know about me, you can connect with me, joseconnect.com. Thank you very much.
Together we are global speakers talk.